Hello, my friends. We are here with an amazing guest episode today. And this episode is going to help you get to know yourself better as a sexual human being and therefore learn how to communicate and access your own sexual desire on a completely other level, more effective, more impactful, more connected. And to help us with this, we have artist, scientist, and educator Laura Alyn. So, welcome, Laura. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. So your work is interesting because it's combining so many different angles. And I'm so excited to kind of apply this to sexuality, which the book that you wrote that we're going to be talking about, tell people the name of the book um and then we'll get into things.
Yeah, so it's 1,000 different questions to embrace your sexuality, and it's questions and activities actually. And these questions really just came from a place of exploring my own sexuality. I grew up feeling really ashamed of anything sex related. I couldn't even talk about it. So like past me being on a show like this, I could never have imagined.
Because I think that's a little bit of my journey too, where like I felt like so more like embarrassed and fearful around sex. And a lot of people that I work with now, there's still a little bit of like a squeamish aspect or something that feels like a little uncomfy to them, where it's hard to view themselves as a sexual person. So I'm so appreciative of you coming on and just like sharing your journey and sharing these questions. I'm kind of excited to get into some of the questions. Also, I'm like 1,000. That's a lot of questions. How'd you even come up with 1,000?
So what I did is I broke it up into different categories. So I have like a this or that category or would you rather category. And so from there, then that's when the questions just started coming up. And so the main question that I kept coming back to was why? Why do I feel this way? Why and how can I go deeper into myself? And so from there, then all of the other questions kind of stemmed from that.
So cool. Did you like from doing this process of the 1,000 questions? Like, how did you feel before and how did you feel after?
Yeah, so like I was saying before, I was so ashamed because like, they say, like, once you get married, like, now it's okay. It's okay to have sex, but they have
Yeah,
that switch just because I signed a piece of paper was
I know.
so hard for me, and I'm like, "Why do I feel weird? Like, this is okay. Like, it's safe. You're fine. Like, everything's good." But I just kept feeling this, like, weird thing, and so I really had to go into, like, my own programming and, like, okay, like, what was installed in me and how do I uninstall it? And that
Yeah.
actually got me to really think about like how do we know things and why do we believe the things that we believe and what do I actually believe about sex, about education, about all these different
Yeah.
things. And yeah, I just started this whole journey.
I love that. So it seems like your thing really is like self-inquiry. And I think you mentioned you have a bunch of other books too, and there are a lot of like guided journaling. So it's kind of all supporting people with this self-inquiry process.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so cool. So are you willing to share some of the questions with us in the book? And I know you said they kind of go from maybe a little bit more like gentle or general to getting more a little bit more raunchy and specific towards the end.
Yeah. So at the beginning, it's really just as a starting point, like where are you at? How do you feel about sex in general? And then like then giving ideas like, okay, like would you feel about this? Because sometimes in the moment when someone asks you, like, oh, would you be down to try this? You don't have time to think. You don't have time to say, like, oh, like, would I want to do that? I don't know. So if you think about it beforehand, then in the moment, because people don't want to stop in that moment because then it's
Yeah.
like a turn off or
Yeah,
it
you're gonna
gets
kill the mood.
awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, "Oh, like, let me think about this analytically. Let me go through this whole process."
Yeah.
Like, it's not really, yeah, it's not in the moment. So, to do it beforehand, now you can actually sit with your own feeling with your body and really listen to what would your body want to try? What would your body not be willing to do ever? So then when the question does come up in the bedroom, you you already have an answer ready. You don't have to go through this self inquiry, or then you don't have to do something because in the moment you think it might be good, and then later on feel like you regret it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's something about writing like that. So many of us resist writing. I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to have to write it down. But there is something about writing that cements things in your head, right? And that kind of helps you process them. Can you, like, I'm sure you know a lot about that. Like, can you say more about that and like why that process is important?
Definitely. So when our thoughts Our thoughts are kind of like cars racing on a freeway where they're
Yep.
so fast and sometimes we get stuck in one and it's so fast that you can't really like you're stuck in the door or stuck in the
Yeah.
car, you're trying to open the door. And so then we get stuck in like all of these loops of bad thoughts. But when you're writing, you pick one lane and you stay in your lane and you just allow everything all of the cars that are coming in that lane instead of being stuck in one car. You're stuck in the lane, but then you're able to find this avenue. I kind of see it like plant roots where you're going down one route and seeing like how far can you go deep, like down into yourself. And the cool thing is that the deeper that I've gone, the more questions have come up, the more that has come. So I kept thinking like, okay, once I'm done learning about myself, then I can start this other thing. And then like, okay, I'm never going to stop learning about myself. So I better get started.
Things where, I feel like I've been on a personal growth path for so long, and there are moments, and I'm sure a lot of my clients, a lot of our listeners, have done some coaching, have done some therapy, obviously listen to podcasts, read books, or into personal development. And it can definitely get to a point where you're like, am I done yet? Can I be done? Am I healed? Can I check that box? It's like, no, sorry. It's got to
But
keep going forever.
yeah, well, actually what I found was that once we zone in on our actual desires, then we can build a life around there so then it feels like it's natural. So like the work doesn't feel like work. It just feels like, oh, I'm just on the phone with a friend or like a new friend to get into more. So that's how I really like rewired my brain so that now work doesn't feel like this uphill battle or like this rat race that I used to be a part of for so long to now living life more slowly and more intimately with yourself. And then that has also then gone into intimate moments with my husband. So because the deeper I go into myself, the more open I can be to be with my husband.
That's amazing. So, how long did it take you to do these 1,000 plus sex questions?
They were like rapid fire. Like I
Really?
think I got the idea probably like late February and the book was published April 29th. So like that was the editing process. That was everything. They were just coming once I opened the door. It was like Pandora's box. Once I opened the door, they all just came flooding through.
That's amazing. I mean, because then not only are you writing this book, but you had to answer them yourself.
Mhm. And I
Wow.
still do. I
Okay.
still go back and flip through the book and read let's think about it. Okay, like what do I feel now? Because the person that I was before, oh, like I mentioned, like before I was so closed off. I was very resistant to it. And now I feel like I'm more comfortable in my body. And so I'm able to allow like the comfort with
So, do you feel like your own sex life has improved as a result of doing this process?
yeah, definitely.
Okay. That's exciting. Do you think your husband would agree?
Yeah, I think so too. Because with him, like he had to be really patient with me
Yeah.
because I was really resistant to pleasure. So, like, if it felt too good, I'd freak out and like, "Okay," I, like, would close up and like, "Okay, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done." And so he had to be really patient with me and to help me, or, like, sometimes with the questions, like, I would answer for myself, like, "Oh, I wonder what he thinks about this," and then I'd go ask him, and he's been a good sport about answering all my questions.
That's so cool. Because it sounds, I think when we have like a book or a quiz or a list of questions, something that's like a third party source, it kind of neutralizes the topic of sex. And then it's like, oh, we're kind of just like playing this game. And it like lightens it up a little bit instead of like, I have feelings about our sex life and I'm scared to talk about it, but we have to, and then it's like can feel like pressure and anxiety. And so I love this as just sort of like a lighter way. Like you said, it gradually deepens over time, but it's just like a nice structured way to get to know yourself and your partner. So
Yeah,
good job.
definitely. And so you could do it, like writing a journal and doing it by yourself and going from number 1 all the way to 1,000.
Yeah,
Or you could just flip through it and play with your partner, with a group of friends, just to, like, see
too.
other people's
Don't have to go in
preferences.
order at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and then there might be a few other perfectionists listening to this episode, but there's a part of me that's like, oh, I have to be so thorough in every answer. I'll never get through 1,000. Like, can you just have really short answers or like one word answers to a lot of them, or like, yeah,
Yeah, some of them, are, like, really the this or that section, for instance. One is the only
let's
thing
can
that's coming
we
to
do some
mind
this
is
or that? Ask me some this or that. That sounds fun.
okay, yeah.
Okay,
Let
we're
me
pulling up the this or that section. So everyone listening, you can kind of play along in your own brain. I'm still gonna encourage you to get the book and write them down because I do think the writing process is very important.
Miss
Okay.
so the first one was playful teasing or deep connection.
I would say playful teasing first and then deep connection after. What do you think?
I think that the playful teasing can lead to deeper connection.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Okay,
Yeah,
alright.
so but some people want to have, like, the intense deep connection first that they won't even go into something unless they have that deep connection. So that's, like, where that question originated from.
Cool. Oh, that's a great insight. This is a really great way to learn about your partner. Alright, what comes next? I like eye contact.
Eye contact or touch first?
Say eye contact because I feel like that can help with, like, building anticipation. What do you think?
So I like touch first because that kinda, like, gets me into the mood, and then the eye contact, like, cements it.
That makes sense. I love how, like, everyone kinda has a different pathway towards, getting into their sexual energy a little bit more, and so this is fun
Mhm.
to uncover this. Okay, what's next?
Yeah, and the cool part too is that even though it's a this or that, so you would think, like, you only have 2 options, but the how to get to that option, like, the reason behind that option is different for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yes, that's so true. Even if you have the same answer, it's worth discussing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Words or silence?
It's a tough chords, but I also often like silence. I think it depends on the mood for me. What do you think?
So, getting a little into astrology, I'm a Gemini Mars, and so Gemini is the sign of communication, and so I need to talk. I need to, like, dirty talk, or I need to say something. There needs to be some kind of words, because then silence, I get too in my head, like, "Is everything okay?" Like
Can see that. Sometimes I think like the dirty talk kind of like enhances and really helps me get into a headspace that's more sexual. But then there's other times where I'm like, I'm already there. Don't say anything. Let's just have it be like steamy and passionate. Let our bodies do the talking.
yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah. That's so fun. I really love this as a tool. I might actually have to like buy a few copies and give them to my clients. Oh, okay. So we start with some of that stuff, a little lighter stuff, some this or that. I think the this or that format is just like so wonderful for getting people started on this. Um and just fun. Well, and then where do you take people on this journey of 1,000 questions?
Yeah, so towards the end, it starts to get a lot more raunchy. It starts to incorporate like different acts or different like toys or different things that like deepen it or like BDSM or things like that to go deeper into different kinks. Because I think that if we can't even if we're too ashamed to even explore our kinks, like I think everybody has a kink. It's just digging deep
Totally.
to find it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think, how many layers of repression are on top of the kink. So, and some
exactly.
people listening might be like, "No, I don't. I'm so vanilla." And it's like, you're probably not entirely. I think that there's a book called Tell Me What You Want by Justin Lay Miller, and it did a study of like 4,000 people and their different sexual fantasies and things that were like their biggest turn ons. And I think it was like 96% of people had something that was like BDSM related at some point in their life. So I feel like even just knowing that, it's like, oh, okay, so let's stop being weird about it, please.
Exactly, and that's literally what I had to tell my own self, like, "Stop being weird about it, like, you're fine."
Yeah, that's great. I love that you like pushed yourself out of your comfort zone. It seems like this is also a great tool for that. Like if somebody is feeling kind of like repressed or squeamish to just use this as a tool to feel more comfortable.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why, like, in the title, I have "Embrace Your Sexuality" because we all have it, so we have to stop pretending that we're not sexual beings because we are, so it's about embracing it and embodying it so that your body feels safe in the act.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Can you say more about that? Because I think that's so important. And that's part of my 9-step pathway to passion that I take couples through is like physical and emotional safety. So, how do you feel like these questions would actually lead people to a greater sense of safety to be vulnerable?
So, this is can I answer it in a tangent way?
However, you want to answer it. Yeah.
Because I'm getting my PhD in education right now. And
Mhm.
so I'm really focusing on all of the ways that we know. And what I did is I looked at it through the soul, mind, body, and spirit. So I read thousands of pages of text from all over the world, from all different timelines, time periods, and everybody talked about the soul differently, then they talked about the spirit, then talked about the mind and the body. And these are only the four that came up. And so I did like a deep dive in all of that. And what I found is that the body is responsible for perception and it's responsible for being an ego, like being by itself versus coming with
Okay.
everybody else. Whereas the soul, it's like Carl Jung would talk about it like the sea, and where our soul is just like one cup of that water. So
Yeah.
we're all part of the same water, so, like, the soul, but our body, we each have our own individual body that, yes, is part of nature, it's part of earth, but our body is like a house, and for our soul that lives within it.
Okay.
And our soul needs to, like, communicate with our body, but a lot of times our minds just take over and it's like, "No, you have to do this because this is what you've been taught. This is what society has told you." And so
Yeah.
then your body gets shut down a lot of the time, and that's where, like, the literally fat is just, or not always, but sometimes it could just be trauma that you haven't processed yet, so your body's holding on to it until you feel safe to process it. So, by answering these questions, it's very soul related so that then your mind can be able to talk about it so that now it's out in the open, something that could be murky and some people would even say gross in this space. Now with your mind giving direct answers and actually being able to analyze it, it's bringing it to light where now you don't have to be afraid of it anymore. So
Mhm.
then now that drops into the body, like, okay, something that my body feels and desires that I used to call gross, now when I'm changing it, now this is something that is good. This is something that is pleasurable. This is something that is safe.
Yeah.
Now you can step into your body and really get into what you actually desire and then be able to communicate it so that you can satisfy your needs.
I love that how it's like so it's kind of a process of connecting the different, like, layers of who we are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very cool, and I agree with what you said too. I'm a big fan of Eckhart Tolle, and he talks about, we're all waves of the ocean, and the wave is sort of the surface level, like, maybe, like, the body, like you're saying, or even the mind, but we wanna kinda connect with that, like, deeper ocean part of ourselves too, or essence of ourselves, really. But I
Exactly.
also do internal family systems coaching, and I think that that's also made it clear to me how the body is sort of the perception and the ego and, like you said, the house for the soul, but those are sort of what we would call our parts in IFS. They're not our self energy, which is more of that, like, deeper ocean level. So, yeah, I think it's cool how just different experts and models kinda all point in the same direction. I think it's always
Exactly.
worth noticing when, like, several different things are pointing in the same direction. So, yeah, I love that. So it's like we're not shaming the body, we're not, and actually I'm curious, like, do you feel like sexual desire typically comes from the body or comes from the mind, from, like, what your research has told you?
It's the body. So the
Yeah.
body will something will bubble up and then it's how the mind interprets it. So even like with food,
Mhm.
like your mind, I mean your body could be saying like I need calcium, but then your mind thinks like, "Oh, you want ice cream? Okay." So
You're like, "That is my preferred form of calcium, so great."
so the same thing goes like with the sexual energy. Like your body's like, "Hey, I have this need." And then your mind's like, "Oh, no, that's gross. So you're not getting that." And then your body's like, "Oh, okay." And then it just like starts like hiding more and more each time.
Yeah, that makes sense. It kind of explains some of the shutdown because I do think people can get to a place in their sex life where it's like, oh, I have felt rejected or I have felt discouraged or even getting to a place of feeling hopeless that, they're going to have the sexual relationship that they want. And then they can just kind of like shut it down. And it's like, where did that desire go? Because I don't know that the body just stops, but maybe the mind just kind of squashing it.
Yeah, so it's like a little kid that if you keep saying no, 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 the little
Yeah,
kid's gonna stop asking for it.
right.
And the same thing, like any kind of body desire, so like hunger or like thirsty or like here with sex, like after a while your body's gonna stop asking. So then it's up to you, the mind, to ask it like, okay, well, what do you need? I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to give you what you need. And then sometimes you don't feel anything, you don't get any answers, but then by if you keep building this trust with your body and anytime that it does, like even to go to the bathroom, sometimes we
Yeah,
say like, "Oh, let me finish this really fast and then we'll go to the bathroom."
I
So like
know.
little things like that. Yeah, every time,
I've
like, you're
noticed that. Yeah, I think that this is why I feel like hustle culture is so harmful because so much of it is overriding your body's signals. So it's like, you want movement? No, you're going to be glued to your desk. You just have to work. You're hungry. Well, you're just going to have to like shove something down your mouth and like not digest properly. Or you're tired. Too bad. You have to keep working. Like, it's kind of terrible,
mhm.
you know?
And I think for the longest time, like, with sex, it was like, "Oh, this is a treat, so it can only be at night or on the weekends." And it's like
Uh-huh.
breaking that down too, like, at any time, like, if we feel like going at it at 10 a.m., we can go at it at 10 a.m. or,
Yeah.
like, whatever. So I think, like, really breaking down those barriers has really improved.
I mean, this is amazing because you just kinda came up with your own process and it worked,
Yeah.
You're just like, "Hey, this is an area I'm not super comfortable with. Let me just, do some self-inquiry." And I'm also curious, like, what do you think attracted you so much to self-inquiry and doing it in a written form? Like, where did that interest come from?
From marrying my husband.
Really?
Yeah, because nobody supported the marriage, and my whole life I was a people pleaser, so I got straight A's, I went to college, like, I
Yeah,
did everything right.
yeah.
But then when my husband came into the picture, we got engaged 4 months after meeting, so it freaked out both sides of the family, like, it was bad for a long time. Now we're gonna be 6 years married, in March, so, like, now everything's okay.
Okay.
But that led me down this whole rabbit hole of, "Oh my gosh, I've been a people pleaser my entire life. Like, what do I actually care about? What do I actually believe? Like, who am I?" Like, I completely lost my sense of self. Like, well, the only thing that I know is true is that I love my husband. That's the only thing that I know. So from there, let me go deeper into myself. Like, what else do I know that is true for me? Not because my parents taught me or because school taught me or because the church
Mhm.
taught me. Like, what do I believe is true? And then from there, what I was talking about earlier, all of that comes from my framework. So it's called the Ornelian framework, and the link is on the screen right here. So it's
Okay.
theornelian.com/framework. And that's like where it goes deep into every single part of what I was talking about. But yeah, it all started from there. And so the framework now is looking at different ways of knowing. And by looking at something, like even something like random, like let's say like blowjobs, is something like what came to mind right now.
Mhm.
Um, so if you look at it like ways of knowing through each of the different sides, then you can really understand like what your partner needs in that moment to be able to maximize pleasure. And so you can use it in that, but you could also use it to study plants, like I don't know, like you could use
So
it to
when
use
you say, like,
anything.
looking at all sides of a blowjob, is that going back to, like, the body, mind,
Exactly.
okay. Can let's
Yeah.
actually apply that to a blowjob. Like, what would the body, mind, and soul levels look like? And also, I think you had also said spirit, so how are you distinguishing spirit and soul?
Yeah, so soul is something that, like I was saying with the water, like something that's inside. So when you talk about like your heart or like people like to touch your ear, like that
Yeah.
moved my soul. So it's like heart energy, something that's inside versus spirit is like your vibe, your aura. Like when two people vibe together, it's that their spirits are like doing this like entangled dance kind of.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, so that's spirit. And it's also like how you can specifically with sex, like your spirits are the ones that are coming together, and like through the eye contact, that's how your souls are connecting. Through speech, that's how your minds are connecting, because when my mind would just cannot shut up, so then sometimes I'd ask my husband like, well, what am I supposed to think about right now? He's like, you're not supposed to think about anything, like just enjoy the moment.
Do you think, yeah, people who are people pleasers, which is a huge percentage of the population, honestly, huge. Yeah, it's like we can forget to ask ourselves those questions. And I think that's a big part of what I try to help my clients with as well is like just start asking yourself the questions. Like, because people feel some anxiety sometimes that like they don't have the answers, or I'll have people do a intimacy assessment when they first start working with me, and sometimes people have been like, I kinda can't even face the questions because I don't have the answers. Like, how do you get past that? The anxiety of not having the answers, or the feeling that you should have them to, even start this process of self-inquiry?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question because it just goes
Yeah.
back to the framework that I was
Yeah.
talking about.
Okay,
So
great.
there's 16 different ways, and so your mind might not know, but you could ask your body, you could ask your spirit, you could ask your soul, and then each of the 16 different ones, there's so many layers to it where there's questions there too that you can go deeper into it through the questions. And so it's not like here's like a magic bullet, here are all the answers. It's more of like here's where to start, here's a map so that you can go deeper into yourself so that you can learn about these different things.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think one of the things one of my therapist supervisors told me when I was becoming certified as a sex therapist was sometimes your clients will say, I don't know. And she was like, but they know. So that's one of the things I'll do is like, okay, but if you had to guess, what would you say? And then people usually answer that. And I find that so interesting. So maybe it's
I
coming
think
from a
with
different
that,
part.
it's more of a shame though, because with
Yeah.
that, it's like, oh, like, I don't know how they're going to react if I say this. So when you say, well, if you had to guess, then it like gives like it takes off some of the pressure.
Yes. Yes. Cause I mean, pressure comes up all the time. I had that come up in a client session this
Can you
morning.
still hear me?
Oh yeah, I still hear you. Do you hear me? Yeah, I hear you. No?
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, you
Um,
froze. So I was, yeah,
okay,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
you froze. Well, that's just a normal thing that happens. Usually I just keep talking through that with Riverside and the recording comes out fine. So let me just
Okay.
make a note of what time it is so I can cut this part out too. Yeah, so if that happens again, just keep talking. It's fine. Unless it goes away for like a while. But like if I get a little frozen for a few seconds, that's normal. Okay, so where were we?
About not knowing the I don't knows
You
because
I
yeah,
think you
some
were saying
part of
it
you
comes.
knows.
Yes, right. Some part of you knows. So maybe it's coming from a different part. Maybe you start out with the mind and the mind is like, I don't know. And then it's like, oh, but your body knows,
Mhm.
you know? And that's something that I do with the internal family systems too, is kind of anchor it in people's body and their physical sensations so they can kind of make those connections. Is that included? Like is some sort of like body awareness part of the self inquiry that you do?
Yeah, yeah, so that's it's called number 2, like the little box. The number 2 box, and it's, empirical knowing, so it's just collecting data. So when
Yeah.
someone rejects you, it's not that it's a rejection, it's just collecting data. So, like, maybe if I asked in a different way, they would see it differently. And so it's just collecting data for your body. So, like, the sensations when you feel touch, how does your body respond? When they touch you here, how does your body respond? And, yeah, just really anchoring it in the body.
So fun. So I guess I'm curious, like, what would you say to people who don't feel like they know themselves very sexually well sexually and maybe like or even their partners. We'll start with the person who's maybe not in touch with their desire. Like what would you say to that person? And then what would you say to the partner of somebody who has lower desire or just like not very aware of their desire?
So I would say for actually both, I'd have the same answer. Start at the complaining. What is your partner complaining about, or what do you find yourself complaining about? And
Yeah.
even if it's not sex related, like by looking at the desires, what I've noticed, maybe it's just me, I don't know, but what I've noticed is that a lot of times it boils down to some kind of deeply rooted sexual desire that you were just too afraid to voice.
So common complaints from couples that I see might be I don't like the way my partner tries to initiate, maybe they're just trying to like make out with me right away and I'm not even like in the mood yet or they're just like not great at figuring out like the right place and the right time.
Perfect. The not placed in the right time, that is up with the mind, and so it'd be a box number, so it's all related to astrology too. People when I say astrology, people say like, "Oh, then it's like not credible," but that's why I spent so much time making sure that like it was it was through this academic process of my dissertation to incorporate both of them. And just as a thing with astrology, I do believe in astrology. I don't think it's something that you believe in or don't believe in. Like you're affected regardless. You just don't know about it. But with astrology, it's a Capricorn. So number 10 is Capricorn, and that's really going deep into what you think that your responsibilities are and your duties are. And so if the person's not initiating, then they don't think that it's their job. They think that it's the other person's job. And so that's worth having a conversation over. When would you want me to initiate, or when is it my turn? Because you're not going to take accountability for something if you don't even see it as your responsibility.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. And that is something I run into with couples too, where it's easy to kind of point the finger and be like, "Wow, the reason I feel like this is because 'cause you're doing blah, blah, blah," and people are not necessarily always. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and so talking about, like, the soul and the mind, like, you can't separate them because everything's so interconnected, so, like, the best that can do is the different parts, so it'd be, like, the body of the mind is responsibility. So, it's like your body and your mind have to work together to know when it's your responsibility to do something, and it could be sexual or not, like, cleaning the dishes, like, is it my responsibility, is it your responsibility?
Yeah.
But so, like, really being clear about who's responsible for what, like, really has helped.
Yeah, that's amazing. And do your books does this book in particular with the 1,000 sex questions include some, like, Ornelian framework overview too, so people will kinda understand that aspect?
The book doesn't have anything with the Ornelian framework,
Okay.
yeah, the Ornelian framework's really new, so but the questions do like, that was, like, the beginning of it, so, like, from this book, from doing this journey of asking these questions, that was, like, the foundation of the Ornelian framework, so, in a way, they're related, but I wouldn't say that I wrote about it.
Okay, but so people can still find out about the framework at theornellian.com. So we'll link to that one as well in the
Yeah,
show.
yeah, it's all up there.
Okay, very cool. Because it does sound like they're kind of interwoven in a way. Well, yeah, this is really great. What else do you feel like people should know if they're, kind of in this process of wanting to get to know themselves better as a sexual being, wanting better communication, wanting a better sex life? What do you feel like they need to know?
Yeah, it's about going deep into yourself, like I've been saying this whole time. So I guess
Yeah.
it's really asking about that why, like, well, like what is your body feeling like? What does it need? Like a lot of times too, it's that connection to what I was saying earlier about the ego. Like we think
Mhm.
because we're in our own body that no one understands us, no one has been through what we've been through. And so it feels really isolating and alone. But a lot of times the body's desire is that connection. And so
Mhm.
using intimacy through sex, but then also finding different ways of intimacy around sex, to get closer to your partner. And so to go deeper into yourself and asking the why question, like, well, why do I want this connection? Like why do I want to feel this way? Or then even just touching yourself, like not in like a sexual way, but touching your leg, like how does your body react to that?
Mhm.
And from there, like just really incorporating the different sides of self. So like that would be for body, the mind would be the questions in this book. And then your spirit is what makes you feel alive, like, what makes you feel excited to go into having sex? Like, what are your turn-ons? What yeah, just what lights you up.
So you're kind of getting at the issue from all angles, right? So it's like if one avenue doesn't feel very open to you or feels kind of blocked or stuck, you can always try one of the other ones.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think before, like we were just like on this conveyor path where a conveyor belt
Mhm.
where it's just a singular path. And if it doesn't work for you, too bad, suck it up. And now
Yeah.
we're in this space, especially after COVID, I realized that a lot of people are becoming more open minded to exploring these different paths like through career or through relationships or even just with the self. And so yeah, I think it's a great way to explore yourself and to make life more of an adventure and say like, okay, like now I'm gonna try this and try that because a lot of times this is what happened with us. Like we were just stuck to the same three positions because that's what felt
Mhm.
good and we
I know.
didn't really expand on that. So that's what the book helped too. Like we've never tried this before. Like maybe we should try it or maybe no, I'm not okay with that. I'm never gonna try that.
Yeah, yeah. But at least you're having the discussion, and it seems
Mhm.
like just by engaging in it, I'm guessing you're no longer only having the 3 sex positions.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for just sharing your wisdom and your journey and your book. So, just again, tell us the name of the book and where people can connect with you if they're wanting more Laura in their lives.
Yeah, so the book is a thousand questions and activities to embrace your sexuality, and you can find it on Amazon. If you're part of the Kindle program, it's free, so you can just go look at it there. And then you can also find me at It's Laura Alyn on Instagram. But you can find everything that I've talked about today all at theornellian.com. And that's where I have everything, all the different projects that I'm working on, my podcast, my books, my
Okay,
art,
cool.
everything's on there.
You're just a multi-passionate person and you're kind of like finding ways to bring all of that together. I think that's
Yeah.
important to kind of have people who see the big picture and bring it together. So thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you everybody for listening. Go check out Laura's book and we will catch you next week on another episode of Ask a Sex Therapist. Bye everybody.